Yeah, so that's beautiful stuff that we've seen. But we have one more match tonight with Kranich versus SjoW, and that's the one we're going to be moving into right now to talk about, because these two guys have been looking absolutely beautiful. If we take a look at the standings and see where they sit right now, Kranich really turned things around from his 0-2 start. Yeah, he was 0-2 to start this out and really trying to find himself. That's what really seemed. He was playing, I think, something like 7 different classes in his first couple matches. Now he's won 3 in a row, but SjoW himself is 4-1. He's looked great so far. Yeah, SjoW has been absolutely crushing the competition as well. You know, typically known as a control player, he's been kind of branching into the sort of mid-range and aggressive side of things. Yeah, he's been very aggressive, doing very well with Hunter, queuing up beautifully in his matches. Now, again, he's going to be playing against Kranich here today, and I want to start talking about this match a little bit. When you look at these two, I really want to focus on their mana utilization. Now, when we start with this, we're going to start on Kranich's side. He's coming in at 3-2, but again, he's on that 3-game winning streak. He's really beginning to find his groove here in HPL. He's currently sitting at the bottom of the standings in terms of mana utilization, though. He's at 79.5 usage of his mana per game here now. I think that's a factor of him trying to find some of these different strategies that haven't always worked out. He's 4-1 in games where he utilizes his mana at 84% or higher, so you see him doing better in those games where he's using streamlined decks. Now, he's been queuing up differently and frankly better, in my opinion, lately. Now, he's been favoring combo-oriented decks like Patron and Druid and mixing in some Mage and Warlock into there, and I like what I'm seeing lately from Kranich. Yeah, Kranich, once again, had an excellent turnaround from his 0-2 start, picked up 3 straight, and now, sort of at the start of Kranich's strategies, looked very wild and unpredictable. I mean, Nat Pagel was found in some of his decks, and choices that were very unconventional. We've seen very little Shaman in HPL so far, and it has been doing absolutely dreadful, but he's turned that back around. You know, from whence he was unpredictable, you're starting to see some method to the madness. Really what he's doing is finding the right options against the right opponents. Kranich is thinking way outside of the box. It's not really about this matchup or that matchup or whatever it's going to be. You know, obviously that's important, but key cards that opponents aren't prepared for is really where his aim is. Yeah, and his aim needs to be at SjoW. SjoW is coming in at 4-1 tonight, and his mana utilization has been at a great number at 83.1 here in HPL. That's 4th place in all of HPL. Now, he's been spending his mana, and he's been spending it well. He's an amazing 12-2 in games where his mana utilization is above only 79%. We talk about pros always want to be around 80. If he gets over 79, he's winning almost every game that he's played. Now, you can see this in his amazing play so far with Hunter. He happens to be 7-1 with that here in HPL, but in 6 of those games, his mana utilization was over 85%, just curving out beautifully, using all of his mana, weaving in hero powers, and really, really punishing people. Yeah. SjoW understands the power of curving out, and making sure to get every little bit out of his mana is super important. You know, SjoW actually, he's kind of been one of my favorites in HPL here, and some of his statements really, you know, kind of took me to heart. He said in one of his interviews that you have to prepare for your opponents, not necessarily just bring the best strategies. He's not really concerned with playing his favorite class or playing his favorite cards. He's concerned with winning the game. SjoW has done an excellent job of changing up his strategies from a game-to-game perspective and utilizing the information he's getting from his opponents to influence his choices. You know, with someone who's had the reads as strong as he's had, what's the best way to fight against something like that? Yeah, Kranich is going to have to figure that one out. And when you look at both of them, this is a matchup where both players are way more successful when they're utilizing their mana well. So you're going to have to look for that out of them. Curving out has been very important to both of their strategies overall here in HPL. Now, SjoW, he's been dominating in his matches here in HPL, and he's been doing it mostly by playing power strategies. Kranich has not always been so focused in his deck choices, but he's been tightening it up just a great amount lately and looking like a real formidable opponent. Yeah, this matchup interests me a lot, you know, kind of with the way that Kranich has been unpredictable, but focusing his play a little bit more lately, and SjoW just been getting the better of his opponents as far as the information battles are concerned. You know, but how do they interpret the other's approach in this one? The fact that SjoW has been flexing around, but that Kranich has been unpredictable? I mean, we might see SjoW just try to remain in the driver's seat in this one and not really take into account as much as what Kranich has been doing. But Kranich may be trying to take that role himself. You know, with every single passing match, his overall records are, you know, gaining tension between both of these players. They need these big wins right now if they want to stay on the road to that championships. Something we've seen from everyone so far is that when they're fighting on an aggressive side of things, they're tending to win the games. Yeah, when they're fighting aggressively, you're going to see it have a
both of them here, but I think a little bit more out of SjoW Kranich. You're not really sure what you're going to get from him from round to round.
Yeah, I sort of like a box of chocolates in that regard. So I'm going to focus on what I think Kranich needs to do in this match if he's going to pick up this win. And I think the first thing he needs to do is focus on the tempo. SjoW has been absolutely coming out firing in his matches, and Kranich needs to throw that off. He needs to get that little bit of change of pace, and if he gets one step ahead of SjoW in this matchup, he's going to be able to dictate how the rest of the game rolls out. And the second thing I think he needs to do is not get too fancy. SjoW has been playing very powerful decks that have very targeted kinds of strategies. If Kranich finds a way to do something about that, great. I want to see him utilize that, but I don't want to see him branching out and using wild cards against an opponent who's going to try to punish him for doing that.
Yeah, SjoW hasn't been getting too fancy at all. It's been really nitty-gritty and just getting in there and fighting people. But what I think he needs to do to win this match, number one, don't try to target Kranich. Though he's been more focused lately, Kranich loves to innovate and show some of his flair. If you try to zero in on Kranich, you may find yourself guessing very, very wrong. So just play powerful, streamlined decks. The guy, when he comes into decks, he randomly selects them sometimes. He talked about how he rolled a die to select what deck he was going to play in his match. Now, number two, just keep playing Hunter. You're 7-1 with it, man. Just play it some more. If Kranich is going to do something fancy and take his time setting up a lot of stuff, kill him. Just kill him. Punish him for not getting anything going. If you give him if he gives you even a small window of opportunity, make sure you take that and don't look back.
Yeah, I think that's something that's a very big talking point for him. Once again, Kranich been kind of, it's really unpredictable exactly how he's going to play. And once again, I love to see him focus.
I don't think he even knows half the time.
I mean, it's definitely does roll the die. He said it himself in his interview. Prepares strategies and then randomly chooses one, so his opponents can't pick what he's doing. Given that, if I have to pick someone who's going to win this match, I believe it's going to be SjoW. I think professional players should be using the knowledge that they have to make the better decisions in their games, not choosing to get not targeted, because the idea behind a game is that you want to give yourself the best chance. If you don't think that you can get the better of your opponent in this, that means you're the weaker player. So I have to go with SjoW.
Yeah, I can't believe I'm doing this again, but I got to agree with you. I got to go with SjoW as well. Again, I think he's just going to punish Kranich if he does anything kind of fancy or out of the norm here. If anything goes wrong for Kranich in one of his fancy decks, SjoW is going to just steamroll him from there.
Yeah, it's a possibility. What do you think of Kranich's play so far? Do you love the way that he's been kind of playing a little bit of different cards than we've seen from other players? You get out there on Twitter and let us know. Use that hashtag HPL, and also get out there on Facebook, like and comment on the page. Let us know your thoughts on it. Maybe perhaps you love the fact that SjoW has been playing different strategies, but you want to see him play Control Warrior. Let SjoW know about that as well out there on Twitter. But make sure you use that hashtag HPL. But sort of all that out of the way, just once again, I think SjoW is going to end up taking this one because his strategies have been so refined that against an opponent who's willing to try sorts of things, that's the kind of guy you typically punish. Yeah,
you definitely want to punish people when they get a little bit out of line, as you want to call it, when they start doing some wild and crazy stuff, get really innovative. Sometimes it works. I'm not trying to stifle his creativity. It's great. I loved seeing it. You saw it in BlizzCon in the top 8 last year. Kranich doing some amazing things of decks people weren't really expected for, but you're playing against a professional every single round, every single game here. Some of that stuff's not going to fly.
Yeah, you're free to mix it up, but once again, you get too creative and people can punish you for it. In a game like poker, that's exactly what happens. People start to kind of go out of the way and start mixing things up, and then right when that's happening, you can catch them in a pattern. That's where you can get punished majorly for it.
Yeah, absolutely. Just like any kind of card game, anything like that, when you start doing stuff out of the norm, people are going to target you for that and really punish you.
Yeah, honesty, really big talking point for that. You have to be able to handle early game threats and then kind of move up the curve from there. In Hearthstone, the fact that you are able to move up the curve no matter what in your games, it's a matter of how well you build your deck to perform within that curve.
Yeah, and another important thing in this match for me, I feel like we're kind of bashing on Kranich a lot. If someone is going to beat SjoW and what he's been doing, maybe it is Kranich. He's going to come with some, funky thing that we haven't seen before, or some weird style, and SjoW's going to play around something and not be able to play around the other thing that Kranich has. He's going to zig when he should have zagged.
Yeah, I don't really think of it really just bashing on Kranich so much. It is that SjoW is the kind of player that you have to respect in that regard.
Absolutely.
If you find your opponents that you think are weaker than you and you can really catch them off guard and punish them for that, I think that's exactly what you should be doing.
Yeah, if you have any kind of advantage, you should just leverage it over and over again and really get your opponent.
Yeah, we saw that sort of with Nat Pagel, against Green Sheep, the way that he tends to be so aggressive. Nat Pagel was a minion that Green Sheep was unwilling to kill in their match. It drew Kranich 4 cards that game. Yeah, it's 4 cards.
Nat Pagel's great if you're going to draw 4 cards off of it. We've seen it in other games where it never even caught a fish.
That's a possibility as well, but that's sort of a risk versus reward scenario that you're going to end up having.
Yeah, and these players are making the last refinements on their decks right now, guys. We're going to get into the game in just a second. But yeah, if you're going to draw 4 cards off in Nat Pagel, yeah, it's great. Put it in all your decks. But you know, an
So 2014 Hearthstone.
Yeah, an 0-4 minion that doesn't have an effect on the board for multiple turns, I can't get behind a card like that half the time.
You know, I have to disagree with you in some regard. You know, it really depends on how your opponents are going to end up playing in the strategies. Once again, against Green Sheep, he was unwilling to kill Nat Pagel. He wanted the damage against his opponent. A card like Nat Pagel exploits that tendency.
Yeah, maybe it's good against a player like Green Sheep who's going to ignore that kind of minion and really push for damage over and over again, and you can abuse Green Sheep from doing that, but against some of these other players, they're not going to let you run amok with cards like that.
Yeah, plus Nat Pagel's fun. I mean, who doesn't
It
love
is
drawing
fun.
extra cards?
I will admit it is fun.
I loved it.
I have never drawn an extra card off Nat Pagel in my life.
You didn't,
Never.
You didn't play in early 2014
Yeah,
before they changed the card.
yeah.
They definitely did. You know, people like to complain about how Nat Pagel was deciding games back then, but I think what's deciding games was people's inability to play early game minions and pressure a Nat Pagel.
All right, so I got a really important question for you, Nathan. If you and I were playing against each other here in HPL, what do you think that matchup would look like, and what do you think we would be playing?
I would just beat you up. I would just play. I would just play Face Hunter, and you wouldn't have any way to deal with it.
What's my lifetime record against you in Hearthstone?
It was a 2-0 playing random decks. Is that what it's been?
Scoreboard.
I don't like to turn it into a
Scoreboard.
competition amongst my close friends and people who I even kind of consider family members.
All I'm saying is maybe before the end of the season we could get a match in ourselves.
Hey, I'm down to put some stakes on it if that's the way it's going to be.
Well, here's the thing. This hasn't been planned. We don't have a match planned between the two of us, but I'm kind of putting the pressure on the guys upstairs that that make these matches. Maybe we can get one on screen. Get out there on Twitter. Use the hashtag HPL on Facebook. Let us know who you think would win. Nathan might be getting a little too big for his pants here. I gotta put him back down to size here.
You guys go out and set the stakes because I'm willing to play Tannen for anything. I don't care what it is.
Come on.
The best of 5 series, I'll play for anything.
Come on. I'm from Vegas. I'm willing to play for anything as well.
That's totally fun. So we got the willingness here, but you guys are setting the ideas for this one. Honestly, I don't think there's any chance that you can beat Hunter. I've been playing Hearthstone for a very long time and very aggressively.
You just play a lot of Hunter?
I think so. I think I would just beat you.
I would just play a lot of Priest. If I know you're playing Hunter, I'll just beat you with Priest.
That's fine. You can play that Priest. I'll just play 4 power minions that Priests can't deal with.
Also, tell us what decks you want us to play. We could do that as well. We can start queuing up decks that they tell us to play.
Priests can't Shadow Word Death 4 power minions, and they can't Shadow Word Pain them. How are you going to deal with that?
I have no idea, honestly.
It's impossible. It doesn't work that way.
Maybe I'll play that Paladin deck from tonight.
Priest is what he's going to do to beat me.
I'll play Super JJ's Paladin deck from earlier.
That's totally. I'm okay with that. I'm going to Deadly Shot your Sunwalker.
Oh, and it looked like this. We got game 1 here between Kranich and SjoW. So maybe we could stop talking about ourselves and have a real match here just now.
Yeah, the professional players are now ready to get underway, and it's anyone's guess what Kranich is going to bring. It's always a treat to see, but SjoW versus Kranich is getting underway. Yeah, well, here we talked about this, Kranich being a little bit more streamlined lately. He's playing Druid in this one, and he's going to be looking to apply pressure. That's an Innervate in his opening hand, and SjoW a little bit in the dark on exactly what he's playing so far.
Oh, I see what you did there. But yeah, I'm loving this from Kranich. It's very good against a lot of the decks that SjoW's been playing. Plus, it seems like the safe and pretty popular first pick for a lot of people here.
Yeah, I mean, Druid is such a safe pick. It's hard to really set the tone for the match from your opponent's perspective when you have this much open-endedness in your play. You can be aggressive, you can be defensive. We just saw that happen with Jab, who was able to take games the full distance. Now, what I'm curious about is if people are kind of moving towards adopting Ancient of War, because we've been seeing that card a ton lately.
Yeah, absolutely. And you know what? These Druid decks just look so amazing with Innervate, and it just feels like every opening hand here.
That's the way Druid works. I mean, look, if you're going to be good at Druid, you have to draw Innervate. You have to draw Wild Growth. These are very key cards in the strategy.
You know what? I am just been absolutely loving this deck lately. I've been playing this a lot myself in ranked play.
Yeah, well,
that is a mind control tech.
This is the kind of thing that Kranich will do too. He will.
That's an King Boss in SjoW's hand.
He will try to punish people for this, and with Innervate Keeper of the Grove,
yeah, what a great play.
Is the nightmare start for Warlocks.
Look at SjoW's reaction.
Not happy to see that one.
Fair enough. Yeah.
But this board, this Imp Gang boss really going to do a lot of work in this position. I mean, that's a possibility that you see Kranich use Savage Roar this
I just love Kranich's reaction here. He's like, Innervate this Keeper of the Grove to kill your turn 1 Imp, and then he takes a little sip from his coffee. Like, it's another day.
Another Keeper of the Grove. I have to believe this is Savage Roar turn. It will very cleanly deal with this Imp Gang boss. I say cleanly. He does have to use a card and some of his minions' health and some of his own health to do it.
But he has to take care of the full Imp Gang boss here.
The last thing you want to do is leave minions on the board against a deck that's going to play stuff like Direwolf Alpha, Abusive Sergeant, Defender of Argus. Those are the kinds of decks that you need to keep the board clear.
Yeah, Kranich keeping around minions with 2 health, though, it can be kind of an iffy situation later. We do have a Bane of Doom here in SjoW's hand.
Yep, silence on the second Keeper of the Grove. I mean, this was such a beautiful start for him. Even got to copy a big Game Hunter here, so making sure that he has cards that can kind of answer both sides of this in case it gets out of control.
Yeah, there are some minions that you can get out of SjoW's deck. Look at SjoW's reaction.
Just absolutely not loving what's happening here, and I can't blame him. I mean, with his hand, how does he get any pressure going?
Yeah, that's a big question here. Now he does have the Knife Juggler, Abusive Sergeant, Flame Imp turn, and just really hopes that these knives, are very, very good for him.
Wow.
I think he's gonna, play the Flame Imp first and see that if the knife hits this 2/2 here, he might have a chance and play the other one. But now he might not play the Abusive Sergeant.
Yeah, still pretty happy, I think, to have it hit the 2/4 in this situation though, because that puts it in range to die to either one of these minions attack now. So,
yeah, it's still a very fine one.
yeah.
Definitely.
So I think that this is just totally fine.
He needs this one to go face.
That goes into that one instead. Still
Well,
not a
it
bad
does put 2 damage on both of them now, so if they're both around next turn, he can pick it up with a Bane of Doom.
I wonder if this is a position where Kranich is going to leave stuff on board to try to get
value out of his mind control
I feel like
tech.
this card's a little bit better against something like Implosion, maybe. So in this spot,
I definitely wouldn't be playing.
I
for that.
fully expect him to make some trades here. I mean, something that looks very good to me.
I fully expect him to take SjoW's entire board out here and play Big Game Hunter.
Yeah, Big Game Hunter is okay, but once again, though, you're playing into something. We've seen a lot of Bane and Doom
you just
lately.
play the mind control tech.
Yeah, I mean, your opponent's so low on cards, and you're going to be scaling into turns.
That's a really
6
good
and 7
point.
after this. I think this is beautiful to play the mind control tech.
Yeah, that's a really good point. Playing around Bane of Doom here, not playing the Big Game Hunter.
Yep, so SjoW picks up a Doom Guard, but he doesn't have any pressure coupled behind this. I don't think he wants to move all in on this quite yet.
Yeah, he's gonna life tap here for sure. Haunted Creeper, that's a pretty good one.
Yeah, not too bad, but this is the spot where now I expect Kranich to start turning up the heat. He's got a little bit of pressure that he can add behind this.
Oh, that's a good one.
Now there's a lot of pressure he can add behind this. This Druid of the Claw is coming down in taunt, and I fully expect him to start going to the dome.
Yeah, this is gonna be just so hard for SjoW to chew through here. This is gonna feel like a nightmare for SjoW.
Yeah, I mean, just, does he want to play Doom Guard here now? This is still such another spot where it just doesn't feel very good to do it. But now that Kranich is starting to, put some heat on you, you have to start worrying about Savage Roar and Swipe and those kind of things being a factor against your life total.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, you could do something like Direwolf Alpha and Haunted Creeper here and draw a card as he just did, but ooh, Implosion picked up.
Yeah, but, once again, just kind of no board presence really was able to get rolling for SjoW because of the 2 keepers that grow from Kranich.
Yeah, I like this play. Implosion is mind control tech here. He does hit it for the full 4.
So Kranich, oh wow, that's another strong draw here. But does he favor drawing cards here more instead?
Yeah, I think I would just draw 2 cards here. You get to do Emperor Thorton plus a hero power next turn. There's a lot of 1/1s in play, so there's a lot of good things going forward using your mana this way.
SjoW drops down to 13, but now Direwolf Alpha going to help shore up a lot of this board position.
This is going to be an amazing Direwolf Alpha turn.
And with an Abusive Sergeant or the Bane of Doom. I mean, I have to believe this is going to be Wolf Rider.
Yeah, there's a really good chance he's going to Bane of Doom this turn as well because it's one of his ways to get back in this game. He's feeling very, very far behind, and if he does this, if he Bane of Dooms, he gets to actually pick off this Ancient of Lore as well.
Yeah, this is exactly why this card's in here. So
Doom Guard would be an amazing one here.
So would, a lot of these would.
Pit Lord's great as well.
Totally fine. Going to be able to wipe out his entire board, end with a 6/6 minion on board, plus a 2/1, plus a 1/1. Yeah. This is looking bad for Kranich all of a sudden.
What an amazing turnaround here.
Yep, 2 Piloted Shredders to add to this board, though. That's a pretty scary sight, I think, for SjoW.
That's Kranich. I'd just be like, what just happened?
Yeah, you can see it in his face, too. That's exactly the kind of reaction he just had. What did just happen?
Man, Implosion is a messed up card sometimes.
It's absolutely dominating the board presence, and SjoW, no shortage of gas to add behind it.
Yeah, just a full hand going forward. He can actually play his entire hand and this Doom Guard next turn. He's going to draw another card as well, but he gets to get a lot of value out of this. You're going to see him really push for a ton of damage here and a really good board position next turn.
Yeah, with nothing but minions left in his hand, he wants to alleviate as much of this mana pressure as he can. This is really, I think, his one turn where he can get back into this in terms of, letting SjoW have the pace of attacking. There's a Jiraxis in SjoW's deck.
In this deck.
We talk a lot about how Kranich likes to innovate stuff. SjoW has Jiraxis in an aggressive deck.
Well, this is weird now, too, because he might think he needs this Jiraxis to survive going forward, and he can't afford to play Doom Guard if he thinks that.
I would think so as well, but I have to believe that just running out 8 mana worth of stuff is exactly where you want to be in this matchup.
It's too much to pass up here, I think.
I totally agree with you. I think he has to get something done.
I mean, you get to get in a ton of damage here this turn as well.
Let's see where this. And
it's really hard for Druid to punish you for filling up your board as well.
No, it absolutely is. So Doom Guard is going to be sitting next to this this Pit Lord. He decides that he doesn't even want to ever try to siphon all this pressure. Nope, he's going to use his Direwolf Alpha and his 4/1 to do it. I love this play from SjoW. He's got plenty of pressure on board, and Kranich needs something rolling right now. I mean, this to me looks like a turn where it's going to be both Shades of Naxxramas and then hope he can draw Savage Roar.
Yeah, I think that's actually one of the only ways he wins from here. SjoW has 13 power in play. He's at 16, so SjoW has to actually draw something to push through the last couple points of damage. If he develops, Shade of Naxxramas, and he could even still play Piloted Shredder or something if he wants to, he can still win this game with a Savage Roar.
Yeah, can't get out of range of Power Overwhelming unless he wants to use the Ancient of Lore. And SjoW's going to
that
have
doesn't
2
seem
draws
very
for that.
good. Putting a 5-5 into play against this board when he has a 5-7 and a 5-6, that just seems very bad.
I completely agree with you. I think that he should go for setting up a board position where he has 3 draws to try to get a Savage Roar. I think that's his best way to win.
Yeah, that's going to be his best way to win from here, and I think you're going to see that from him. You're going to see Shade, Piloted Shredder.
There's the first Piloted Shredder. There's going to be 2 Piloted Shredders instead, and what looks like a Shade and X ROM is behind this. But he's considering using hero power here. I mean, does Kranich feel like he can fight his way back into this game?
Maybe he isn't thinking along the same lines we are, and he's thinking about finding a minion-centric.
Oh, wow. That's a good draw right now, but I think he wants a little bit more. I mean, this board is scary right now for Kranich. I mean, he has to be thinking about the potential of Savage or even just Force of Nature.
He's going to life tap here and see, oh, that was a pretty decent pick up there, too. Now, he won't be able to play the Dr. Boom and the Voidwalker, but if he takes care of a lot of these minions, yeah, what you're going to see here, and you see him play around something like Force of Nature or Savage War, he's going to be able to leave behind this Voidwalker to help, shore up his plan from here.
So what does this drop? Acidic Swamp Ooze. Every point of power matters a lot right now, so seeing a 3-2, can't be too happy about this one.
Not at all. How does he move forward from here exactly?
Yeah, I mean, this is sort of like the danger that Druid always presents too, is that it can put your opponents in positions where they have to play around ranges of cards and force them into positions that they don't necessarily want to be in to begin with.
Yeah, I mean, you can see him playing around 2 cards that Kranich doesn't have, but he is worried about him drawing it as well.
6 points of damage on board. You can see him even shaking his head. Doesn't necessarily have an effective way to fight against this much board pressure. This Piloted Shredder drop looking like it's going to be paramount. SjoW is going to attack this right now.
He doesn't want to at all. Yeah, I think you play the Dr. Boom here because you're still just dead to the combo cards. So you make a board that's unbeatable going forward.
Kranich picks up Force of Nature. That's 11 points of damage.
That's exactly 11.
That is just enough. But he also had Ancient Allure to try to pick up Savage Roars. Kranich is going to win game 1 here off the back of an aggressive Druid start with 2 Keepers of the Grove to answer all the pressure that SjoW had thrown at him in this game.
What a swingy game. Kranich came out, looked great. SjoW re-established control, started pushing for a ton of damage, got a really good Bane of Doom, and then Kranich, just at the last moment, picked up that card to win.
Yeah, 2 Piloted Shredders making a very big difference in this board position. SjoW very much in fear of something like Savage Roar and Force of Nature. Even swipes were an issue for him, and he didn't have the right damage at the end to end it. If he has something power overwhelming in his deck, those were extra outs. Doomguard was an out in this deck as well, but with those 2 card draws, wasn't able to find those and falls behind and ends up losing.
Yeah, ends up losing. Kranich moving to 1-0. And you know what? He's won 3 in a row here. He's going to win a 4th one in a row here against a great opponent in SjoW here. I mean, SjoW, you got to believe he had a great game there. He really took it back from him. I thought he was going to lose very quickly there, and he fought his way all the way back to be in a winning position, but it just slipped away there at the last turn.
2 Keepers of the Grove, more than enough to fight
So
off
unbelievable in the beginning.
Such a great stuff. If you guys want to see the recap for this game, you can head over to pvplive.net and see it for yourself. The full stats breakdowns, how they played their strategies, everything that you need to know, even their competitive histories are available on the database. And that's going to be that for that first game, and they're making changes to their decks right now. But when we come back, game number 2 is going to be getting underway. Kranich looking to put himself out to a 2-0 lead, and SjoW looking to tie it up. Don't go anywhere. You're watching Hearthstone on PvP Live.